Greetings, everybody. My name is Larry Williamson, Jr., and I'm the director of the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center. And I've been asked to speak to you on behalf of the 35th annual Pre-Kwanzaa celebration at The Ohio State University, on behalf of the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus, on behalf of Student Life Multicultural Center, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion's Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center. Welcome to our Pre-Kwanzaa celebration. We are so glad to have you today. I've been asked to give a libation, so therefore I will give you the libations here. I will start off by saying, and some of these things I'm just going to read to you, and other things I'm just going to come from the Spirit. You see, libations is an African tradition. It's a way to pay respect to the past, to the present, and look toward the future. We will use water as a form of libation as we pay respect to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. We pay respect to our elders and our future generations to come. When we pour water, you will respond by saying Ashe, which means be with us. Ashe from the Western African culture, the energy of creation. Ashe is, in this instance, power to make it happen. We will hold the cup up as we will say collectively, Ashe. The water will represent the foundation for how we live, and the plant will represent the life that continues to flow. An African proverb tells us that people who lack the knowledge of their past are like trees without roots. So in the spirit of remembrance, we pour libation, Ashe. An African proverb tells us that people who lack the knowledge of the past are like trees without roots. So in the spirit of remembrance, we pour this libation, Ashe. We pour libation for our esteemed ancestors who laid the foundation for human civilization and who provided the wisdom by which we live and the models by which our lives are guided. We say, Ashe. We pour to honor the past so that we learn from it. We say, Ashe. We pour to honor the importance of family. We say, Ashe. We raise our cups toward the heavens to show our reverence for the original source of our lives. We say, Ashe, as we raise our cups to the heavens. We use cool water to freshen the road our ancestors traveled to be here with us today. We say, Ashe. We use cool water as a symbol of the continuity of life to purify and to nourish our souls. We say, Ashe. We pour to celebrate the coming together of students, families, and friends for this Pre-Kwanzaa celebration. As we say, Ashe. It is said that through others, we are somebody. We broaden our family circle, remembering our heritage and recall those who gave us life. We call upon our ancestors, our mothers, grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our fathers, our grandfathers, and our great-grandfathers, uncles, aunts, and cousins, the foundation of our family, immortalized in our thoughts. We wish everyone to leave more blessed than when they came for this Pre-Kwanzaa celebration as we finalize by giving the final Ashe and we pull all the water out. We say, Ashe, be blessed. It is done. Thank you. Okay, we are here today with Dr. Andre Brown. He comes with us with a lot of experience. He's the Assistant Director of the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center within the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. We get the opportunity to ask Dr. Brown just a few questions so we can help us to get clarity to Kwanzaa and specifically Pre-Kwanzaa. Dr. Brown, how are you doing today?
So far, so good.
Glad to actually hear that. Now, we're going to kind of put you on the spot here a little bit, but at the same time, we know that you're a man of your word, that you can handle basically anything. And today we come to you safe, distance-wise, we have our mask on because we're still in this pandemic, but at the same time, our Pre-Kwanzaa celebration will go on and on and on. 35 years of celebrating Pre-Kwanzaa at the Ohio State University. So let me start off here. Dr. Brown, as you were growing up in the Philadelphia area, what was your favorite holiday? We're going to start off with that.
Growing up, I have to admit, my favorite holiday was Thanksgiving because it was an opportunity for us to come together as a family, to just see people we haven't seen in a long time, and just celebrate our, just coming together. And it's not necessarily Kwanzaa, but Kwanzaa, is about unity. It's about joining together and celebrating us as a culture. So they go hand in hand with that Thanksgiving as well as Kwanzaa.
In 1966, Dr. Krieger comes up with the first African-American holiday. His goal and objective was to give people of color, specifically African-Americans, something that they can look forward to. So from December 26th to January 1st, we celebrate Kwanzaa. Why is Kwanzaa so important to our community?
Well, one, it's the one holiday in which we're celebrated as a culture, as a community, but also it talks about the 7 principles that we should embody as a community of, just purpose and uplift and unity and collective action. Those are some of the things that we as a community should come together and do. And at the same time, it celebrates our African heritage and culture. So that's why I think about that. And I think, when you think about a people, we have to, because of the awful tragedy of slavery, we're almost disconnected from our culture. So this enables us to come back to our culture and celebrate Pan-Africanism and celebrate that not only just individual places where we come from, but all of Africa, all of Mother Africa in terms of our homeland, our ancestral homeland.
Now, at Ohio State University, we've been celebrating Pre-Kwanzaa for 35 years. Now, we're not celebrating the Kwanzaa because we have to know that starts December 26th. Why would Pre-Kwanzaa be important to college students, and then specifically college students at the Ohio State University?
Well, I was very fortunate to have the pleasure of being at the 34th annual. That was my first Pre-Kwanzaa celebration here at Ohio State. So a lot of times it's for the good food, but also it's the opportunity to come together, not only just for that, actual food, but that soul food that you don't eat, but it feeds your mind. And it was very powerful to see, brothers and sisters of all shapes and sizes and colors come together to celebrate their African ancestry, but at the same time just to come together. And that's the biggest tragedy of this year is although we're not here to come together physically, we can still come together collectively as a people, whether it be virtually or by checking in on one another or just being able to be there for someone, maybe not in a physical presence, but in a transcendental presence, if you will, to support us as a community.
Kwanzaa technically means first fruit, and I think you made a very good comparison when you said Thanksgiving, and then you say Kwanzaa. First fruit meaning that we're festive, we feed, we eat. Why is it so important that when we have a celebration that we're more communal? Why is it so important that we just come together as a group and enjoy life?
Well, I think it's important because you get to share not only the time, the talent, and the experience of different generations, the old and the young and the old, but also you have an opportunity to learn from each other. And I think both communities, what dynamic, because I think some people make the mistake of thinking of black people as a monolith. And, we all come from different places, different communities, different backgrounds, different experiences. So that provides us an opportunity to share with each other those experiences and, your experience. Look at the both of us. We grew up both in the Philadelphia area, and then we relocated as Midwesterners, and we still have different experiences, but they're very similar. Like we still have the experience of being black men in America, but having it, we come from very similar backgrounds, but at the same time, we come from different age groups. And that impacts how we see the world and how we adjust to things. But we can still learn from each other and learn from our experiences and grow together as a community.
you're a person who loves history, and oftentimes you're pointing out the accomplishments of what students did as far as our movement is concerned. 35 years ago, it was the idea of Dr. Maria Kelsey to bring Pre-Kwanzaa to Ohio State University, but it was the Black Graduate Professional Student Caucus that implemented. What is the role, you feel, of student organizations, graduate students and undergraduate students, from a historical standpoint, of bringing something of this magnitude to a university?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you look at some of the biggest movements in American history started with students. All the historically Black Greek letter organizations were founded by undergraduate students. All the organizations, these are organizations that, propelled great leaders that have ascended from their ranks, from Martin Luther King to Ralph Abernathy to Jesse Jackson to even to this day, the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. So these are all from student organizations. So we look at that, but we also look at SNCC. These were undergraduate students at a historically Black college. So we look at that. These are student organizations that who arise from these ranks, and they go on to change the world and benefit our society and make our world a better place. So I think that's the freedom and the obligation of undergraduate students, is having that luxury to be themselves in their unique Black self, but at the same time, it gives them the opportunity to express themselves through their creativity, for their time, and hopefully to make some good.
Very good. We celebrate the Pre-Kwanzaa celebration because many cities still do not celebrate Kwanzaa, the December 26th through the 1st. So we have Pre-Kwanzaa because our goal and objective is to say to our students, you need to know what Kwanzaa is about, even if you don't celebrate it at home. How important is it, you feel, that our Pre-Kwanzaa celebration is educational, as you're doing right now? You're educating our people, you're educating our community, you're educating our youth to say Pre-Kwanzaa is so important. So why would you say it's important for the students that don't have a place to go back to know about Kwanzaa as a Pre-Kwanzaa?
Oh, well, a lot of the words I've been saying have focused around community, unity, growth and development, and those are some of the things that, some of the, not necessarily explicitly to the principles of Kwanzaa, but they are similar to them in terms of promoting that growth, promoting that development. And that's one of the things about the Frank W. Hale Black Cultural Center, is that this is a place where we not only will we love on the students and help them grow and develop, but we'll teach them how to love themselves and how to love Black people, but not just Black people, but all people in terms of their growth and their development, so they can learn about themselves. Because I think if you don't know where you come from, where your ancestors come from, you could be lost as an individual. So that's why I think celebrating Kwanzaa is so important. That's why I think that the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center should remain a place where students can access it as a place to learn about themselves and to develop and grow, so they can develop that sense of love for themselves, their culture, but also their community and their world.
I just was watching the news the other day, and the oldest living man that we feel in the United States was 107 or 108. He talked about what got him to be there, and one of his answers was soul food. Eating soul food. So I'm going to ask you, as you talked about last year's Kwanzaa, you talked about the food, and a lot of it was soul food. Why don't you describe what soul food is? And you're a cook. You enjoy cooking yourself. Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell us a little about the soul food as a part of our celebrations?
Well, soul food originates from, our African ancestry. So think about all the what our ancestors, when they arrived in this continent, what they brought to America. So when we think about all the spices and all the ways they cooked they cooked things from the remnants from slavery, and how they Africanized it and took in the culture that they had, and then they remixed it and they transformed it into something that was something we all enjoy, and perhaps a little too much. But that's what soul food is. When you look at things like ham, and when you look at ham was it's not an animal native to Africa, but at the same time, you take that same ham and you remix and you got things like hog maws or chitlins and something that some people may not necessarily like. I know I enjoy them, but then you eat it and it's just something that that really shows the talent of black folk. They can take anything and make something out of nothing.
What would your parting words be for a community out there, whether they're students, whether it's the African American community? I want to say the Martin Luther King Arts Complex does an exceptional job because in Columbus, Ohio, we do have a Kwanzaa celebration that goes on from December 26th to the 1st. So what would your words be to a community in need of celebrating a Kwanzaa celebration?
Well, I think this past year has revealed to us all how important it is for us to come together. Even now, because of the circumstances of the pandemic, we can't come together physically, but we can still come together culturally and virtually. So that's why we're utilizing this platform to reach out to people so we can, promote awareness of Kwanzaa and to promote students of their African ancestry and heritage. So that's what I think is the most important, and especially what I would encourage people to do is to get to know, get to talk to their relatives, especially the elders in our community, because there's one thing we've learned from this experience this past year is that this virus is disproportionately affecting black folk, especially black folk from the illnesses that we disproportionately affect. So it's disproportionately affecting us in a negative manner. So I think to ensure that we do not lose a generation of knowledge and history, I encourage people to talk to people about their experiences, their culture, how they feel about things, and get to know them. And I definitely give people their roses while they're alive than when they're dead and gone.
Well, we want to thank you today, Dr. Brown, for giving your wisdom, your knowledge, your intelligence, and sharing Kwanzaa and Pre-Kwanzaa to us, and your parting words to the community at large. What do they need to do for Kwanzaa as we conclude this interview?
Well, I think I think what they should do is learn the 7 principles and pick one that I believe they feel that embodies them, and go out and support and love black people through those principles and those ideas espoused through Kwanzaa.
This will be my last question, I promise
Sure.
you. We have Emoja, Kuchichakalia, Ujama, Nia, Kumba, Imani. Out of all these, what would be your favorite? Would it be creativity? Would it be faith? Would it be purpose? Would it be cooperative economics? Would it be collective work responsibilities, self-determination, unity? What would be your favorite principle of all the 7 principles? Did lose the subject?
I would say that for me it's Imani, and that's faith. Because, when you work with college students, you have to have faith. You see these students, they come in and they are, as my mother would say, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and how do you take that student and you help mold them and develop them and support them. And sometimes they have doubt, sometimes they run into roadblocks and challenges. And my practice as an educator is to hold them accountable, so be as tough as an anvil, but at the same time you have to be as gentle as a pillow to support and help that student grow. Sometimes you have to pick them up and dust them off and tell them it's going to be okay. And there's a lot of times where they don't have faith. And I think it's important to help show that student that you believe in them, that in spite of everything that they're going to encounter, that you let them know that it's okay, you're going to be okay, you're going to make it. And I think, in order for them to believe it, I have to believe it. And that's part of my practice as an educator, is to help students to grow and develop, not necessarily spiritually, but to believe in themselves. And that's why I think it's important in terms of my practice as an educator, but also in reaching and connecting with young people.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. Andre Brown, for your Pre-Kwanzaa wisdom, not only for the Imani, for the faith that you put into the students, but for the faith that the students put in you. You have been an excellent example, and we want to thank you for this Pre-Kwanzaa interview that you've done for us today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Williamson.
35 years ago, Dr. Mariba Kelsey came up with the idea of a pre-Kwanzaa celebration at The Ohio State University. It was the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus that implemented it. And 35 years of the day, they are still implementing it with the support of the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center and the Multicultural Center. We are so glad to have two members of the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus, as we will light the Canard and they will give their opinions of the 7 principles, the Nguzo Sabza. They will give their opinion of the Nguzo Sabza, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. A canard holds 7 candles, 3 red ones on the left, 3 green ones on the right, with a black candle in the center. Each night during Kwanzaa, a candle is lit. The black center candle is lit first, and then it's alternate between red and green candles, starting with ones on the outside and moving inward. We're going to ask our guest speaker today, Dr. Brown, to light the candles. We start off with Umoja, which means unity. Unity of the family, community, nation, and race. Dr. Brown, please light the candle. Umoja is unity. When we think of that, Ms. Minor, what do you think of?
I think for me, it all starts with the family structure. I come from a very communal type family. We got together every holiday and everything. We have like nicknames for the sub-families. So when I think of this particular principle, I always think of my family and the love and support that they've given me throughout the years.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gladney?
When I think of unity, I think of family as well, but I also think about bringing to the community as well.
Our next principle is Kucha Chakalia, which is self-determination, being responsible for your own conduct and behavior. Dr. Brown, please light the candle. The candle is lit. As we go to Ms. Weiner, when we say Kucha Chakalia, self-determination, what do you think of?
Honestly, my PhD journey. Like I'm a 5th year PhD candidate, and it honestly has taken all types of self-determination to get to this point.
Ms. Gladney?
When I think of self-determination, I think about never quitting, always persevering through and through, never giving up.
Now, I'm going to go back to Ms. Weiner, and I'm going to say this. For graduate students, it's so important that you have that self-determination. Now, let's look at it from an undergraduate level, and let's look at it from a community perspective.
Yeah, most definitely. I think for undergraduates, if you are trying to get to graduate school, if you are trying to go into the workforce, etc., it does take some level of self-determination. And a lot of that could come from yourself, but also the community that is around you.
And Ms. Gladney, we're going to ask you the same question, which is also undergraduate and community. And that's in regards to Kucha Chakalia, self-determination.
I'm going to speak to the undergraduates that are coming from out of state. They have to be more self-determined because they don't have their family here to, push them and have to get up. They have to really have that drive within themselves to, go to class, to make sure they're doing right, to make sure they're doing all their homework. So the self-determination is really on them to push through.
Let's move on to our next principle. Ujama is collective work and responsibility, working to help each other and in the community. Ujama, Dr. Brown, please light the candle. Ujama, collective work and responsibility, working to help each other and in the community. We're going to start with Ms. Sminer.
Yeah, I think this is essentially what the caucus has always done, what we always continue to do, and that's the legacy we want to leave on campus. We want to be here as a resource to Black graduate and professional students for support for each other, but also for the undergraduates.
And Ms. Gladney? The question is, Ujama, collective work and responsibility, working to help each other and in the community.
I'm going to have to tag along with that on this one as well. The caucus was a big help to me when I first came to OSU. It helped me find my community, helped me find what I can hear and everything else. Just helped me to just feel welcome at the Ohio State University and community.
Let's move on to our next principle. Ujama, cooperative economics, working to build shops and businesses. Dr. Brown, please light the candle for Ujama. As I ask, Ms. Swiner, what does Ujama mean to you, not only from a graduate perspective, but let's look at it from the community too.
Yeah, I think for this, it's always about giving back to your community and helping build us up as a race, as a community in local Columbus and abroad in the greater sense of Ohio.
Okay, good question, good answer. Ms. Gladney, the same with you, Ujama, which means cooperative economics, working to build shops and businesses, and not only answer it for yourself, answer it for our community.
Yes, I would think about giving back to the community through service, just volunteering, like with soup kitchens, or volunteering by going back to schools and reading to students, and just taking out the time to give back to the community that gave so much to us.
Very good. And could you add on what this would mean in the health profession?
Definitely. A lot of people in the community don't understand some type of diseases and some type of disorders, so me as a health professional, I make it my duty to go out and just explain some of the things, like what is diabetes or what is because of anemia, how do I take my own blood pressure, making sure the cup is not too tight, making sure they pull their sleeves up, making sure their legs aren't crossed, just educating the community on those simple things that some people think they know, but the majority of the cases of our community doesn't know. So just making sure they're educated on those simple things and also the complicated things as well.
Very good. Our next principle is Nia Purpose. Remember when restoring African and African American cultures, customs, and history. Dr. Brown, please light the candle. Ms. Swiner, when we think about Nia, we think about purpose. What would your purpose be after graduating from the Ohio State University with a PhD?
That's a great question. I think a lot of my story has really just been about how well I can pour out into others as I've been poured into as a grad student. So that's a lot of the work that I would want to continue to do. So a lot of initiatives that I have are about mentorship or even just about STEM advocacy as the person that's coming out with a PhD in chemistry. It's really important to reach back to high school students, middle school students, even the undergraduates, to let them know, like, hey, there are ways that people that look like you can advocate for you in these spaces that traditionally weren't created for us. So I think that's a lot of what I want to continue to do once I graduate.
Well, chemistry certainly has a tremendous purpose in our community.
Most definitely.
Okay, Ms. Gladney, Nia, purpose.
What purpose means to me is basically just walking in your destiny and just doing what you are passionate about. Like, for example, since I am getting my degree in women's health and becoming a nurse practitioner and also becoming a nurse midwife, my passion is the maternal mortality rate and just lowering it and finding interventions to help our Black women who are dying at a significantly higher rate compared to Caucasian women, Hispanic women, and other women of different ethnic groups.
That's a tremendous purpose. Thank you for pointing that out to us. Next, we go to Kumba, which is creativity, creating and your imagination to make communities better. Dr. Brown, please light the candle. Ms. Weiner, Kumba, creativity.
I think for me, everybody has their own gifts, right? Like everybody has talents that they can use in really interesting ways to kind of help bring things back to our community. So for example, for me, I'm very visual. So a lot of the things that I'm doing are anchored to some kind of visual aspect. So whether it's like I'm writing a blog or I'm doing graphics, etc., infographics are really helpful across social media in general. So I think it's really for me about figuring out what your talents are and using that for the greater good.
And that's odd because when you think of chemistry, you don't think of the creativity.
Exactly.
You think it's more structure. It has to be this way. Excellent answer. Okay, Ms. Gladney, we're thinking Kumba, creativity. Now, being in the health field, again, like in chemistry, they don't think of a lot of creativity when it comes to that area.
Definitely, definitely. But when I think about creativity, I think about just using your strengths and whatever you decide to do. Like for Deb in chemistry, she's talking about mentoring, giving back to community, and with the health aspect was what I'm doing. We focus on giving back to community as well, and just making sure that the community is educated on the various diseases and just what they are understanding.
Okay, and our final principle, Dr. Brown, is Imani, faith, something that you believe in tremendously. If you could light the last candle. Ms. Rana, faith, when you think about that, let's think about it beyond you. Let's think about the faith that you have. It could be spiritually, it could be internal, it could be family oriented. So when we think about faith, Imani, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I grew up in a Baptist household, so faith has always been something that my parents, my grandparents, etc., have always instilled in me. But you can also take it from a different perspective, like faith that you have in the community itself. Right, so thinking about ways that, we've been doing all of this work, especially in 2020, trying to build up our communities, but really just stepping out on faith that a lot of the works we've been putting in are actually going to be life-lasting.
Ms. Gladney, when we think of Imani, we think of faith. And what is your belief?
When I think about faith, of course, I think about the biblical aspect, the fact that I am a Christian, and the fact that we do go to church every Sunday, the fact that we worship God. And I also think about it in the healthcare aspect that since I am a nurse, when we do have patient people, they are putting their faith in us, that we have the knowledge to treat them and have the understanding of these different disease processes and just the pathophysiology of each disease, and that they trust us to treat them and give them the correct medication and different things like that.
We want to thank the members of the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus. And your parting words for this 35th Pre-Kwanzaa celebration, what would you want to tell your community? Because we are so proud that you have brought something this unique and this special to the Ohio State University. First and foremost, we always reach out to Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey for the idea, but we cannot thank the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus enough for bringing this program to the Ohio State University. Without it, there would be a void. So what would your parting words be?
I think for me, it's just keep going, right? Like things are hard. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot that has gone on in 2020. But you want to find something to anchor yourself to, something that's going to keep you pushing, to keep you going into 2021 and beyond.
And Ms. Gladney?
My message would be sure to take care of yourself, whether that's daily walks, whether that's getting a therapist, talking to your therapist, talking to your family, make sure you wear your mask, make sure you wash your hands, just make sure you're doing something to take care of yourself and others.
On behalf of the Black Graduate and Professional Student Caucus, Student Life, the Multicultural Center, and the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center, we thank you for lighting the candles, giving your concept, your thought, your intelligence. Thank you very much.